so now that we have most of you back, I think we'll get started. Before moving on to our next session, I would like to thank a few of our sponsors: Bayer, Sanford Health, and South Dakota ethanol producers. The summit would not be possible without their generosity. Our next speaker will be providing updates on initiative from the Governor's Office of Economic Development that will impact agriculture in South Dakota. Remember, if you're joining us online and have questions, please tweet them to @SDAgriculture using the hashtag SDAgSummit. We are pleased to introduce Joe Fiala. Joe has served as the Community Development Director for the Governor's Office of Economic Development since 2016. He grew up in Hot Springs, South Dakota, and he obtained his degree in computer science from South Dakota State University. He currently lives in Miller with his wife, 2 daughters. Please join me in welcoming Joe Fiala.
Okay, you can still hear me? Great. Well, she kind of stole a little bit of my thunder. I was going to introduce myself just a little bit. So, yes, I did grow up in Hot Springs. I'm a West River kid. My mom lived in town. My dad had some Angus cattle and some quarter horses. And so, needless to say, I got to put in some fence and clean stalls and tote hay bales and kind of the normal stuff, right? I went to school in Brookings, and I met a farm girl from Miller. That's kind of my standard line. And we landed back in Miller about 20 years ago. And I've been in economic development for about 12 years. I was the local economic development director in Miller. And then the last 7 years, I've been with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. It's my absolute pleasure to be here today. So a couple of things. We have been traveling the state here a little bit, talking about our new livestock development initiative. And so I'm going to give that same presentation today that we've been giving to some of the county commissions across the state. I wanted you to be able to see that same presentation so that we're giving the same message to everybody. And so I think with that, I'll just dive in here, see how we go. Hey, it's working. So just a quick little agenda here. I'm going to cover just a very brief overview of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and then we'll talk about this sales and use tax rebate for livestock development. So here at GOED, what I tell people to kind of boil down our mission, right, into kind of something that's easily understandable. We do 3 things. We help businesses grow so that they're creating good paying jobs with good benefits. And when I say business, that also means agriculture. All right, we cover the whole spectrum. And it's important to note that we are not creating the businesses. It's the businesses that are creating the jobs. It's the businesses themselves. We're just lending a hand. The second thing that we try to focus on is enhancing the tax base across the state. That way we can pay for all of the things that we need, from roads to schools to all of the other stuff we need as a society. And third, it's kind of a catch-all, but it's important. We want to improve the quality of life for all South Dakotans. And so that encompasses our mission statement at GOED. This next slide kind of outlines the various divisions we have within our office. I'm not going to cover all that. It's a lot of words, and I'm assuming that the slides will be available. Great. Okay, the slides will be available so you can read that at your leisure. I'm the Community Development Director at GOED, and so what the team that I lead, what we do is we are kind of the economic development coaches for all of the local economic development offices across the state. So we try to do the how-to of economic development. The other team that's important in this whole livestock development piece that we're going to talk about is our business development team. And you'll recall at the beginning of the year, Governor Kristi Noem announced that the ag development team would be coming over to GOED. And so that's where those folks landed, is on our business development team. So we've got a great team in place. And many of them are here. So if you're a business development rep for GOED, why don't you just stand up quick so that everybody can see who you are. There they are. Let's give them a round of applause. Make them feel good. All right, thanks for doing that, gang. All right, quick slide on agriculture. Of course, agriculture has a huge impact on the economy of South Dakota. It goes without saying. This includes production ag, value-added ag, and precision ag. The governor, of course, has mentioned many times her commitment to the ag industry across the state, and we're following suit. We want to be very supportive of ag. We want to help drive growth in that industry, and we're excited about it. Sales and use tax, and I'm going to click through these fairly rapidly, but we're going to leave a little time for questions too. So we've taken two existing programs within GOED, and we've kind of tailored them a little bit so that it fits into livestock development, and we're super excited about this. The two programs that we're taking and working with are the Reinvestment Payment Program and the South Dakota Jobs Program. Those were both created in 2013 by the legislature, and we've been using them since 2013, but in maybe manufacturing or the wind energy industry. Now we're going to use them more in livestock development as well. And to tell you maybe how they work a little bit, let's take a manufacturing example, just so that you kind of see how this steps through. So let's assume we've got a manufacturer in one of our towns in the state, and they're going to do an expansion and buy $10 million of new equipment. In that scenario, they have to pay sales tax on that new equipment. And so they would work with our office ahead of time. We want to know about the project ahead of time. They would work with our office. They'd buy the equipment, pay the sales tax, and then once that project is complete, once that machinery is installed and in place in their facility, they would let us know. We would verify, yep, there it is, and then they would get at least a portion of the sales tax back. And that is as an incentive so that they're upgrading their equipment, they're increasing their capacity, and hopefully creating good paying jobs with good benefits, right? So that's how that scenario has worked in the past typically. Now in livestock development, there's a little bit of a twist to it. We're going to talk about this, but these programs that we're talking about can be used for industries designated by GOED as targeted industries. And so we are naming livestock development as one of our targeted industries so that we can utilize these programs. And what qualifies? What would qualify for use with these programs? Well, you can see it up here. I mean, it's anything dealing with increasing livestock. So it could be feedlots, hog units, it could be poultry, it even could be aquatic animal production, which is a little bit new for us, but that certainly would fall within the specs. Now a project will qualify, we've really got two tests. Is it going to add livestock to the state, and does it need a new county conditional use permit? So those are kind of the two tests to see if that project will qualify for these programs. If it qualifies, like I said, it functions in a similar manner to our manufacturing example, with two exceptions. We're going to assign the sales and use tax rebate to the county. That's going to be part of the deal. So the company doesn't actually get the money at the end of the project, it's the county. And then once the project is complete, when the county receives that payment, they're going to get to use that money however they see fit. There's no strings attached. So we'll step through this here just a little bit. Example, let's take our $10 million example again, right? Let's say we've got, a small hog unit going in for $10 million. The developer of that project is going to pay the sales and use tax on the project. And so how does that break down? Well, let's do some rough math, okay? The maximum that the state would collect on a $10 million project is $450,000, so 4.5% sales tax. That's the maximum that we would collect. However, be subject to sales and use tax. So we're going to work with our Department of Revenue to fully understand that ahead of time to see, okay, how much really does qualify, how much of that project does qualify. We anticipate that most of that $10 million would, but for our example, let's be really conservative. All right, let's just say that $5 million of that project is going to be taxed with sales and use tax. In other words, we're going to collect $225,000 in sales and use tax on that. At the end of the project, the company would assign that sales and use tax rebate to the county, and that's the payment that the county would get. That's a conservative example. Might be more, just depending on the project, but again, we would work with our Department of Revenue. Use of the funds. The county is free to use these funds however they see fit. I love saying that at the county commission meetings because they enjoy that, right? They can use it how they see fit. It could be for roads, it could be for a new road grader, it could be for just operating funds to run the courthouse. It could be something for the sheriff's office. Counties are strapped in general across the state. And so this is going to give them some financial flexibility to do some things that maybe they weren't able to do. So we're happy and excited to see them put these dollars to use. So let's maybe take a step-by-step approach to see how this would work in real life, okay? As soon as a project surfaces, so whether it comes from somebody in the county or maybe a county commissioner gets wind of a possible project, we want people to call our business development team that I had stand up, need to call one of our business development representatives as early as possible and get them involved. And that way, that business development rep can help kind of shepherd this project through the process, and the county doesn't have to do a whole bunch of extra work. We don't want the county folks to have to do a bunch of work. They've already got plenty on their plate. We will do what we call is issue a proposal letter. So we'll take a look at the project and all of the parameters and the dollar figures, and we'll issue a proposal to the company kind of outlining what we think this looks like as far as a sales and use tax rebate. How much does that pencil out to? The developer then would complete their application, which would go before our Board of Economic Development for approval. The company then assigns the grant or the rebate back to the county. So they've got to fill out some paperwork making that assignment. Company pays the sales and use tax as they finish their project. So they buy all their stuff, they pay the contractors to do the work, it gets installed, and they pay all that sales and use tax. At the end of the project, the company or the developer would submit an affidavit saying, yep, we're done, it's all installed, and at that point then, that sales and use tax rebate payment is made to the county. And everybody rejoices, everybody's happy. That's the plan, anyway, and we'll see how this goes. Now, this is important. This is a map of our various regions within the state and which business development representative covers which counties. And I've got their contact information as well. And so as you pick these slides up off of the website or wherever the Department of Agriculture is going to place these slides, you can see who to call to get them involved in the project. And I'm going to say it one more time. We need this to happen as early as possible. So we've had a few applications come in, but the way they've come in has really put us under some time pressure that's not been very conducive to moving these through correctly. The developer calls us and says, hey, in 2 weeks we're in front of the county commission for our conditional use permit hearing. Can we get in on this? And 2 weeks really is not enough time. We can try to shoehorn that baby in, but it'd be much better if we have more time so that we can fully investigate what it looks like, work with the developer, work with the county, make sure that everybody's on board and everything's working right. Okay, so I just want to say that early is better. Couple of things on local control. We're starting to get some questions as we're out doing these presentations. And what does this do for local control? The use of these programs does not impinge on the ability of these county commissioners to exercise their local control. We're not telling people what to do. We're staying out of that local control decision. That's totally up to the county commissioners. And so, essentially what I say to people is for counties that see livestock development as a fit in their county, this is just another tool that they can use. If a county does not see livestock development as a fit, that's fine. It doesn't matter to us. We're not going to get bent out of shape. We're just happy that if some counties use it. All right, regulations. It also does not change anything for regulations. So in other words, counties have comprehensive plans and local zoning ordinances. This does not change anything about those comprehensive plans or zoning. So the county is still, they're still free to follow all of those plans that they have. We don't weigh in on that at all. Also, the State Department of Environment and Natural Resources doesn't change anything there either. So they're still going to play their regular manner, and it takes care of the environment. So we don't weigh in on that portion at all. So no changes there. All right, so roles and responsibilities. We wanted to define this just a little bit. The developer or the company is the one that actually is responsible for filling out the application. And they're going to work probably most closely with our business development team in moving that project forward and working through the process. So that's where most of the work happens, is between the developer and our business development team. We work with everybody involved, whether it's the developer, the county, the business, whoever it is. We work with them to make sure that we're answering all the questions and that people know how this goes. The county, no additional work. And the county staff likes us when we say that because they've got plenty, right? So I've had several auditors go, and nod their head affirmatively. That's a good thing. And so in summary, this is just an innovative way to use a couple of existing programs to help promote livestock development across the state. We get excited for these types of projects because they do a lot of good things, especially in our rural areas. They're creating some good paying jobs with good benefits. They're enhancing the tax base like we talked about. It provides a way for families to stay in our rural areas. And of course, then there's kids in the school system, and there's people shopping on Main Street. There's paychecks being written in those rural areas. All of those things are benefits. And so we see this as a great benefit. We're excited to work with the counties that want to use it. And, we're very hopeful that this is going to have a big impact going forward for livestock development. And I forgot, of course, it's going to impact grain consumption, right, and feed consumption in those areas as well. So local farmers will be able to hopefully have a little bit better basis going forward around those facilities. So we're happy for that as well. I've got some frequently asked questions here. I got to turn to my notes and get my glasses out because the writing's too small for me on the screen. I'm not going to cover all of these. You can read these at your leisure. But there were a couple I did want to touch on. So what is the deadline to submit an application and kind of get in the hopper? Well, you heard me say it a couple times. Sooner is better. We want to be well ahead of that conditional use permit hearing. All right, so 2 weeks is too short. We need to be much further out than that. We do have some deadlines for our boards of economic development meetings, but really that's more behind the scenes. If you contact us as soon as you hear about a project, that's the thing to do on that. Will projects qualify if they already have the conditional use permit in place, but they've not started construction or they've not put enough animals in to fill up that permit? Those projects do not qualify because that conditional use permit is already in place. If it requires a new conditional use permit, then we're talking. And probably the last one I wanted to touch on with the frequently asked questions is, can a county have more than one project? And the answer is, yes, please. We'd love to see that. There's no limit on the number of projects that a county can utilize this program on. We're just at the beginning of this. We've received a few applications, but none of them have made it all the way through the process yet. So we're still learning a little bit as we go here on how this works. Now with that, I'm just going to click through to here. And this would be a good time to open it up for questions. If anybody has a question that they would like to pose on this program. Here's one right here. I think there's going to be a microphone come to you.
All right, thank you. One of the qualifiers, it has to be in and approved prior to the issuance. I mean, it's sort of your second FAQ. Why? Why not allow it to continue or allow some to enroll in the program if they've received their permit, but all of the tax is being paid essentially on construction activities? I mean, what's the rationale behind having it before the county has to make
Sure.
their discretionary?
So there's a couple of different reasons for that. The first one is, one, we need time to work with that company to understand the project. And that's how we work with any business opportunity, whether it's manufacturing or wind or bioscience or whatever it is. We want to be early in the process so that we can fully understand the project, work with all of the stakeholders involved to try to help everybody come together and move that project forward. So that's the first piece of that. The second piece to that is we are trying to incentivize livestock development. We want there to be more livestock development because of all the benefits. And so if we get ahead of that conditional use permit process, that allows us to help do that. And then thirdly, it gives the counties a way to see some of the economic benefit that they might receive, as they move projects forward. I hope that helps answer it a little bit. Another question over here.
Yes, livestock, if you apply for a conditional use permit for livestock facilities, we usually face a lot of headwind, usually close to where the location is. But I like to see a little more approval locally, closer to the facility location itself. So why not send that sales tax money right back to the township? And even make it more better for the township, that the state matches dollar for dollar that to the township as well, just double the amount.
Sure.
Yeah? So.
Well, thanks for the comment, Graham. I don't know if I heard a question in there, but good try. So I will follow that up with a little bit here, though. So the conditional use permit is an important part of this process, and that's why we're working with the counties. The counties, you'll recall, can use those funds, that rebate, any way they see fit. That could include pushing some of that money down to the township to do maybe a road improvement or something like that. So we're not saying that can't happen. And in fact, in one of the projects that has been discussed, I think they're looking at that, at pushing some of those funds down to the township. We also have another program that can be used in conjunction with this. It's called our Local Infrastructure Improvement Program. And it's a grant program to do public infrastructure, so roads, water, sewer, electric, that type of thing, to these types of facilities. And so we've used that in the past to help with roads in particular. So thanks, Graham.
I'd also like to remind everyone online that if you have questions for Joe, you can tweet them to us at SD Agriculture and using the hashtag SD Ag Summit. Do we have other questions in the crowd? One back there.
It might be helpful too if you just give me your name and kind of where you're from, just so I can get a frame of reference.
Thank you, Joe. Yuck Samash. We missed you at Check Days this year. Frank Klochek, Scotland, South Dakota, suburb of Tabor. Two quick questions. You say any new conditional use. I know when we talked on the phone, I tried to address that. Maybe so any conditional use, basically, maybe you shouldn't use the word new, but if they have a conditional use requirement, then they qualify, right? It doesn't have to be a new one. I mean, could you differentiate there? Is there something that you're missing? And then why don't you throw money into something that'll do some good, like a county road haul agreements? If the counties have them in place with the CAFOs, so the CAFOs, because even in dry years, these folks are tearing up our roads. We have 1940 roads, and they got 2,000, you know what's happening, and we just have a total mess. And it's not just in our area, but throughout southeast South Dakota. Thanks, Joe.
Right.
See you next year in Tabor.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. So, maybe a couple of things on that, and let's start with the county road haul piece of that. And again, it kind of goes back to letting the counties use that money how they see fit. If they see fit to plow that money back into their roads, and they can actually work with those companies and require some road haul agreements. And we'd be fully in favor of that and supportive of that. We want this to be a win-win for everybody involved. Now, what was the first part of your comment there, Frank? Oh, the conditional use piece, right. So this maybe will answer your question. We've had some questions about an operation that has a permit that allows maybe up to 5,000 head, but they've only done 3,500 head at this point. And they've asked the question, if I do my next 1,500 to fill up my permit, does that qualify? And it doesn't. We want to get in front of that new conditional use permit and that hearing that has to take place. So that's where we want to be with this. So.
Got another question in the back?
On Ferris, Mitchell. What are you doing to help educate at a local level on the county commission? And secondly, why not go to the county commission if you support the project and support it to the county commission?
Right. So
as a state.
Sure. So this presentation that I just gave, this is the presentation we're giving to county commissions across the state. And there's 4 people on my team, me and plus 3 others. But of course, every county commission either meets on Tuesday or Thursday, the first or third Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we can't be everywhere at once. But we're starting to work our way across the state and do this same presentation. And then answer questions at any time. We'd love to answer more questions and have people call in. And if they want us to come, we will plan a trip and come, because we want to get the information out. We want people to be educated about it and know all the ins and outs. So we're happy to do that. Second part of your question. Remind me. Short-term memory loss here.
Why not go to the county commission meetings as the state and support the project?
Sure.
The commission?
We can do that on occasion. It's something that we want to be a little bit careful about so that we're not influencing that local control question. We don't want people to think that the state is telling them what to do. But on the other hand, we could go on occasion and at least speak to the economic benefits of these types of projects. And I've done that in the past. I've done it on some wind and some ethanol and some other projects. You just have to be super careful that you don't, you're not that state guy showing up and telling people what to do.
Sounds good. I think this will be our last question, and then we have to move on.
Oh, thank goodness.
Hi, Nathan Jensen, Beersford. In regards to conditional use and permitted use in Union County, 2,400 head finisher or 2,400 nursery would be permitted use. That's additional livestock in our county. That's driving economic development. Why would permitted use not be the equipment be eligible?
Because there's really no way to incentivize that. If someone wants to do 2,400 head, they can just go do it, right? So we're trying to incentivize those projects that need a little extra push. And so that's where that county conditional use permit hearing comes into play. And we're trying to help move those projects forward, if the county wants it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Joe. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, everybody. Appreciate it. Here, I'll get my stuff.
Awesome. Thank you again, Joe. Before moving on to our next session, I would like to thank a few more of our sponsors, Farmers Business Network and Farm Credit Services of America. We're really grateful to have all of our sponsors with this event.